it up for a couple of seconds.
Oh, okay, no problem. I'm just a Luddite. I'm afraid to touch anything.
Where is the raise your hand icon?
Yeah, I did this on my phone before, Irene. I'm not sure on this.
Okay. Reactions, maybe? No.
Reactions, emojis. Could be.
If you go to the participants, it should be there.
Okay.
So click participants on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you can say, I'm going to raise my hand.
Oh, mute me, raise my hand. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Nancy.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien.
Hola.
Saludos.
Saludos.
So if we haven't already, unless you have, unless you're going to be speaking, please go ahead and put yourself on mute. Beautiful. Rick, inside of the participants list, you can see most folk are by name. I don't think we have very many who've called in.
Correct. I'm marking people off as I see them sign in.
Okay. Oh, wait a second.
I really like how some people figured out how to just put a picture up there.
Yeah, it comes from on your profile.
Okay.
When you set up your initial profile for it, they'll allow you to put a picture up.
Oh, is that how it works? I just painted my wall. You can do it in the settings or preferences as well.
Okay.
All right. We have good comms, Adam. Hello?
I can hear you.
All right, very good. Let me pull this. Okay. So, Amy, can you mute, please? And Rick, can you mute? Okay. Thank you, Liz. Okay, so that's 1 of 3. Oh, wow. We have a huge group. Great. Ezra, can you do mute for us, please?
Sure.
Okay, before we get started, I'm going to pull this down. I want to talk a little bit about how we're going to go about things before we officially get started. So, I'm going to have Rick call roll, and then we'll actually vote to suspend our rules to allow for the Zoom meeting, right? So we first just need to have the quorum, and then we'll go into the regular agenda. Rick will pop that information up on the screen. I'm going to pay attention to the clock because we really want to get to this resolution, and I may make a point to move forward, to suspend the rules to move forward in our agenda. So thanks everyone for being here. I will now call the meeting to order. All faculty senators, please respond as Rick calls your name. So it may mean that we all need to unmute for a second, but remain silent. And then Rick, if you could go ahead and call the roll.
Okay. These are in alphabetical order by first name. Alexander Rankin. Alan Butt.
Hello.
Amy Chavez Aguilar.
Here.
Brandy Fink.
Here.
Caleb Richardson. Cash Clifton.
Present.
Cassiano de Oliveira.
Here.
Cheryl Bryan. Christopher Johnston. Christopher Lyons.
Here.
Kadruta Sonoro. Constantine Hajilambrinos.
Here.
Dennis Davies Wilson.
Here.
Duncan Meiklejohn. Elizabeth Baker. Elizabeth Hutchison.
Present.
Ezra Dapperman.
Here.
Gregory Bora. Heather Canavan.
Here.
Heather Jarrell. Holly Jacobson. Ingrid Hendricks. Irene Vasquez.
Here.
Jacob Ormsby.
Here.
James Degnan. Jan Martin. Jason Moore.
Present.
Jerome Yatskowitz.
Yes, here.
John Matthews.
Here.
John Russell. Kylan Parashet. Corolla Obermuller. Kuhn Huang.
Yeah.
Lee Brown. Lindsay Worthington.
I'm here. Thanks.
Loretta Cerna.
Here.
Marina Peters Newell.
I'm here.
Mark Langsfield. Martin Jones.
Here.
Matthew Borrego.
Here.
Mohammed El Gank.
Present.
Nancy Lopez.
Present.
Natalia Vidal. Nora Wendell. Osborne Pearson. Paul Afek. Kasarm Chamcharastri. Pramod Panikat. Rebecca Blankley.
Here.
Rick Arenas. Robert Orlando. Robert Valdez.
Present.
Robert Tepper.
Here.
Scott Anderson,
Here.
Scott England, Shirley Haying,
Present.
Stefan Posse, Stephanie Bean,
Here.
Stephen Hernandez,
Here.
Tara Brennan, Tracy Lassiter,
Here.
Ann Woldorf,
Here.
Victoria Sanchez,
Here.
Liyang Zhu. Okay, Finney, you got quorum and then some.
And there were some folks, this is Stephanie Bean, there were some folks I was looking at chat and it looked like their mics were just not working or that Zoom dropped them. So there's several folks that chimed in on chat, just FYI, Rick.
Okay. If I didn't, or you didn't hear me call your name, could you tell me who just signed in, please?
James Degnan.
Ingrid Hendricks.
Ann Martin.
Heather Gerald, call in.
Okay, anyone else? Great, thank you.
I saw Caleb on the messages.
Okay. Okay,
Some
got it.
others in the comment box, like Mark Langfield.
And Cheryl,
Cheryl Bryan, Duncan make, was it Michael? I'm sorry, Duncan, I'm bastardizing your name, and Brooke Baker.
thank you, Pamela.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Audio. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is to suspend the rules in order to hold this meeting electronically via Zoom. This motion is not debatable and requires a 2/3 vote. When your name is called, please respond aye, not present or yes. Please respond aye if you are in favor and no if you are opposed. Rick, please call the roll.
Alan Butt,
Aye.
Amy Chavez Aguilar,
Aye.
Brandy Fink,
Aye.
Caleb Richardson,
His mic is muted. He's communicating through chat.
oh, okay. I can't see that. Do you know what he said?
If he not yet, but
Okay, I'll come.
come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cash Clifton,
He wrote aye.
Cash Clifton here. Aye.
okay. Cassiano,
Aye.
Christopher Lyons,
Aye.
Cheryl Bryan,
She's muted too, Rick.
Yeah, Cheryl's on chat as well, so you might loop back to her when she's able to vote aye.
okay. Constantine,
Great, Ann's there.
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Duncan,
Cheryl says aye, by the way.
And Duncan says aye too.
thank you. Elizabeth Hutchison,
Aye.
Ezra Dapperman, Heather Canavan,
Aye.
Heather Jarrell,
Aye.
Ingrid Hendricks,
Aye.
Irene Vasquez,
Aye.
Jacob Ormsby, James Degnan,
Aye.
Jan Martin,
Aye.
Jason Moore,
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
John Matthews,
Aye.
John Russell, Kuhn Huang,
Aye.
Lindsay Worthington,
Aye.
Loretta Cerna,
Aye.
Marina Peters Newell,
Aye.
Martin Jones, Matthew Borrego,
Aye.
Mohammed,
Aye.
Nancy Lopez,
Aye.
Pisarm Chakarstri, Pisarm, Rebecca Blankley,
Aye.
Rick Arenas,
And that would be aye.
Robert Valdez,
Aye.
Robert Tepper,
Aye.
Scott Anderson,
Aye.
Shirley Haying,
Aye.
Stephanie Bean,
Aye.
Stephen Hernandez,
Aye.
Tracy Lassiter,
Aye.
Ann Waldorf,
Aye.
Victoria Sanchez.
Aye.
Okay, Finney, it's overwhelmingly.
Okay. The rules are suspended. Earlier, well, let me make sure that I'm on there. Good. Earlier today, I had a chance to talk with the Attorney General's office regarding the most recent guidance on. Go ahead and mute, please, unless you have a little. For those of us who haven't muted, please go ahead and do so. Thank you. John Russell, James Degnan,
Okay.
please mute. Thank you. So I had a chance to speak with the Attorney General this a little bit earlier. Not the Attorney General, with Matt Baca from the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General did not mean that all votes are roll call votes. Only our main motions and amendments today require a roll call vote. So the next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. The second item, or the next item on our agenda, is approval of the February 25th, 2020 meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Our next item is a memorial minute for Professor Eleni Bestea. Before moving to a roll call vote on this action item, I'd like to recognize Dean Mark Childs, School of Architecture and Planning, to speak on behalf of Professor Eleni Bestea. Dean Childs, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
You might need to get a little closer to your mic.
I'm pretty close to it.
Okay, that is better.
Okay, something just happened. Okay. Finney, you just cut out.
Right, I just muted myself, sorry.
Okay, so I'm ready to go. Yeah. Thank you for letting me have this moment to honor a faculty member, Eleni Bestea. How do you remember a scholar whose scholarship was memory? I think one of the things that we do is to recognize her scholarship, to read her work, to quote her work, and to do what scholarship really can do, which is to have that conversation between the living and those who came before us. I also think we need to recognize Eleni as a person. And to do that, I want to read a poem by Kay Ryan. It's called An Instrument with Keys. As though memory were not a history, but an instrument with keys on which no C would stay played without re-hitting C. As though memory were a large orchestra without a repertoire till it began. whereupon it remembered all of Chopin. Thank you.
Is there any further comment on behalf of Dr. Eleni?
Finney, I'd just like to say that it's a terrible loss for the university that Eleni was an internationally known scholar, but more than that, she was a humanitarian. She cared about people. She was a great friend of mine, but that's really not saying a lot because she was a great friend to really everyone she met. She pulled them into her circle, and she held the highest standards for herself, and she wanted that for people around her too. And it's a personal loss, but it's a really a big loss for the university.
Is there any further comment?
I would like to say a couple of words. I have known Eleni maybe longer than anyone else. We actually went to the same high school in Greece many, many years ago. And I would like to echo what Pamela said. I think Eleni would like to be remembered as the kind human person that she was. We knew her as a family. We visited both here and in Greece. And on the part of my entire family, Diane, Teal, my wife, and all of our kids, I would like to say that Eleni was not just a dear friend, she was a person who many people were touched by in a good way. And her passing really leaves a big empty spot at this university. Thank you.
Thanks.
Further comment? Hearing none, I'll put the motion for a memorial minute for Professor Eleni Bastea. Rick, please call the roll. Are you there, Rick?
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, Alan,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Brandy,
Aye.
Caleb,
Aye.
Cash,
Aye.
Cassiano, Cheryl,
Aye.
Christopher,
Aye.
Constantine,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Duncan, Liz, or Elizabeth, sorry, Ezra,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Canavan, and then, okay, Heather Jarrell,
Aye.
Ingrid Hendricks,
Aye.
Irene Vasquez,
Aye.
Jacob Ormsby,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Jan,
Aye.
Jason, Jerome,
Aye.
John Matthews, John Russell,
Yeah, yes. John Matthews, yes.
Kun Huang,
Aye.
Lindsay Worthington,
Aye.
Loretta,
Aye.
Marina,
Aye.
Martin, Matthew,
Aye.
Mohammed,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Pasarm, Rebecca,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Robert Valdez,
Aye.
Robert Tepper,
Aye.
Scott Anderson,
Aye.
Shirley Hang,
Aye.
Stephanie Bean, Steven Hernandez,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and Victoria.
Aye.
Thank you.
This is Paul
I didn't hear my name. It's Lee Brown.
Effect.
Oh,
Was I
okay.
making?
I vote aye.
Okay, thank you. And who else just spoke?
Hey, Rick, it's Castellano, just to say aye. I was just having trouble with my microphone here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Got it.
And Rick, that was Paul Affeck who said aye as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And in the chat, Osborne Pearson says aye for agenda topic 2 as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Finney, overwhelmingly passed.
Okay. I believe Cheryl Bryan also says aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes. We'll observe a 1 minute silence for Professor Eleni Bastea. Thanks everyone for that. And also thanks Mark, Pamela, and everyone who spoke on behalf of Professor Bastea. The next item on our agenda is...
Thank you all. I'm leaving your meeting now.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mark.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. The next agenda item is a report from President Stokes. I would ask us also to hold our questions until both the provost and President Stokes have spoken, so that any questions that the provost comments might answer questions that you might have. So we'll hold our questions till the end of both of these. President Stokes, if you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. I do realize you have quite an agenda today, and I do want to keep my remarks brief because I think the provost has things to say, and I expect that there will be questions. It's kind of hard to believe the unprecedented circumstances that we face right now. It might be hard to imagine, but the first case in New Mexico was, it will be 2 weeks tomorrow. And so a lot in our world have changed here in New Mexico. We saw this happening in other parts of the world. I happen to have a stepson who's an ER physician in Seattle at Evergreen Hospital there where these things started. So I had a bit of a heads up of what was ahead for us. But I just want to say my thanks because this has been an intense time for everyone as we navigate a serious health issue as we think about the needs of our faculty, staff, and students. I know some of you have heard some heartbreaking stories from staff, from students, and our goal has been to do everything possible to both protect the safety of everyone and also work to assure the futures of our students, our staff, and our faculty. So just a few things. We have been in constant touch with our governor's office. It is very clear that they are supportive of what we're doing in higher education. They have made some specific requests of us. Of course, with our health system, we have a lot of leadership that is being increasingly provided to the state. So rest assured, there's a great deal of activity from our health sciences, but also from other parts of the university and working with the state. We're also staying in close contact with our congressional delegation. A lot is going on at the federal level related to the future support for this university on a whole lot of fronts. So just wanted you to be aware that that we are maintaining those communications and dealing with a rapidly changing situation. It is amazing how we send out one message. One of the things I remember our group really saying was, we need to communicate. We must communicate. So don't let the perfect prevent us, trying to get it perfect, prevent us from getting information out there. Now, that does occasionally lead to a couple of miscommunications. So I am very appreciative of the ways in which people have been understanding of the challenges of getting absolutely accurate information out quickly to people. And I am always interested to know how we can even better communicate with you. I've gotten some really good, constructive suggestions from many of the faculty, and I just want to say thank you. Whether you offered that via email or through a letter or some other form, I just want to say thanks. I think there are many things that are going on. We have been, I assume you're getting my campus communications. We have been working to keep students who absolutely need to be here because we're the only place they can be, keeping them in our residence halls, providing them services. My last report is that we have perhaps 440 students or so who are remaining in our residence halls. And that's been an important thing for us to do. We're also, I know, trying to prop up a lot of support for faculty as you do for some of you, this has to be unprecedented. The thought of offering education, of continuing scholarship, but offering education in a way that is different. And so I just want to let you know that I'm grateful for what you're doing. What we do now and what we do in the weeks ahead will define who UNM is in the future. And I think that we are going to do this. We're going to do this well, and we will be looking to you to help us make sure that's the case. So with that, I'd like to just turn this over to the provost so that we have plenty of time for any questions.
So thank you, President Stokes, and thanks to all of the faculty senators for letting us take this time today to talk about this. Just to echo President Stokes's remarks, first, thank you, and thank you to all of our faculty who've done an amazing amount of work in a very short time to try and continue the educational experience that is so important to our students. When we started down this path about just a little over a week ago now, seems like much longer, we had a set of principles that we really thought were important to be mindful of. And among those were the importance of protecting our students' futures while at the same time protecting the health and safety of our students, our faculty, our staff, and the state of New Mexico. And we're trying to balance those goods as best we may. We know that many of our students are vulnerable populations. They're vulnerable to housing insecurity, food insecurity. They lack resources in many cases. In many cases, if this term does not lead to their graduation, they may go and never come back. And so we really were thinking about those principles back before spring break when we started down this path. I really do want to say again, we really appreciate all the effort that everyone is going through. I do want to talk about a couple of things other than COVID first, and then we'll come back to COVID preparations. And I do this in part, I'm doing this at the dean's meetings as well. We're struggling through a very difficult time, but we also need to remember the future and the future of the university that we love. We're in a transient period that we must manage, but there are other things to think about too. And so within that context, I do want you to know that all of the searches I've talked to this group about before are continuing. The College of Education Dean finalists have been on campus, and we're doing final off-list reference checking for them. The School of Architecture and Planning finalist candidates are visiting now. One was here about a week ago. One was here virtually today. Another will be here virtually Thursday, Friday. Anderson School of Management, we have 2 finalists coming in next week. And then College of Fine Arts starting April 16th. We're finding that the video interviews can be pretty workable, pretty successful. I would like to thank the creative folks at the college, the School of Architecture and Planning, for even including a virtual dinner with our dean candidates. So they sit there, they eat, they have a glass of wine, they talk. The search for the Executive Vice President for the Health Sciences Center is also continuing. And so I do want folks to know that those searches are continuing, and there'll be communication about those. I think it's also worth sharing a little bit about enrollment. I haven't talked with this group much about enrollment. We have a 16% increase in applications over last year, with 12,910 applications so far as of Friday. Admissions are up 11% with about 7,000 admits. Transfer applications up 2%. Admissions for transfer students are also up 3%. And we're starting now into monitoring housing applications and students signing up for new student orientation, which are the primary ways we can start to tell if a student is actually coming here. It's early days, but housing applications are up considerably compared to last year as well. And so I share those things with you to, again, I think it's important information about the course of the university, and we should remember there is more than the challenge of the moment. Let me talk a little bit about COVID-19 now. As you know, we're moving fairly quickly to remote instructional pedagogies. Most of our schools and colleges report pretty complete management of that transition. It's not easy, I admit that, it's challenging. But it's moving in a fairly good way. We have a formal tracking system now so that we can track which courses that were intended to be taught in person have now moved into some kind of remote instructional format. And so over the next couple of days, we'll have pretty hard data on how many courses have moved. I'll mention as well, as faculty move in this direction, we want to encourage folks to connect to Center for Teaching, or Center for Learning and Teaching, the Center for Digital Learning, as well as the Academic Technologies websites for ideas. Not everything needs to be done in a synchronous format. And in fact, I'll come to this in a minute, doing everything in a synchronous format can be a challenge for some of our students if they have to go to a remote site to get internet, or if they have childcare issues. And so we hope that faculty will be thinking about some of those challenges as well. We do have a program where we are loaning laptops to students with need. We've accumulated about 120 or so laptops between the library and IT. We've distributed about 50 of those today, with some additional ones being distributed over the next few days as well. So we're trying to meet that need as best we can. We're also organizing funding for students who need internet. The most efficient way we have found to do that is to actually just give them funds. It's going to be a challenge, but we can try and support their, if they need to get internet through a Comcast or a commercial provider. If they're in a place where that doesn't work, there are little devices that basically work on the cellular network called MiFis. So we're providing students with funds to procure those. That seemed more quicker than us trying to buy a bunch and find a way to distribute them. We've also, with respect to graduate education and research, you'll have seen the notice from Vice President for Research, Gabriel Lopez, that we've asked that students not be present in research labs at present. That was, it's based again on kind of the principles of trying to create as much social distancing as possible, the challenges of keeping those laboratory spaces clean, especially as more and more people are in them, and as they become crowded. There are exception mechanisms for that on both the HSC campus and main campus, I know a few exceptions have been granted. We do know, there's a lot of concern with the governor's, with the order that came out from the state government, the executive branch and Department of Health yesterday about continuing research activities. We have guidance from the governor's office that we can continue research activities, subject, of course, to both state and federal guidance. And we've received guidance from NIH especially, but also National Science Foundation, a few others, about protocols around human subjects research and research that involves face-to-face contacts with human subjects, including clinical trials. The IRBs can work with individual investigators on that. The state guidance around groups of no more than 5 people in a space, those apply as well. So we can continue research activities under the governor's stay-at-home order, but within those practices of social distancing, including thinking about hygiene and maximizing social distance where possible. Where it's possible to work from home, we ask faculty to do that. And so for someone like me, I do theoretical work and computational work. I could do that work at home. So we ask faculty and students to be mindful of that. We've kept Dane Smith Hall open to allow students access to computer pods and internet. It's open until 5 p.m. There were about 4 students taking advantage of it for that purpose today. And so there is some need there that may grow over time. If that grows beyond what we can accommodate in Dane Smith, we have some plans for additional facilities that we could open if we need them. So those are I think the high points of where we are. An important topic that I know you'll take up later in discussing the resolution before this group is, what do we do to help our students be as successful as they can be in what is an extremely challenging set of circumstances where it would really be a tragedy if they lost the ability to continue their studies and for those approaching graduation to graduate. And so very supportive of the work that Faculty Senate is doing to bring this resolution forward and try and address those challenges. So thank you.
Okay, so everyone, if we could, I'm gonna go back here. We have 69 participants, and for those who want to ask questions, we're gonna try at least to use the raise your hand function. Nancy, you were able to help us figure out how to do that a minute ago. Can you chime in?
Sure. It's basically, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see it says invite. Instead of going there, go to participants, click on that, and you'll see a list of all the names. And not only can you raise your hand, but you can also mute and put your camera on, etc.
Do you have to be in a particular view, Nancy?
No, at the bottom of the screen, everyone should be able to see where it says participants. It'll tell you how many, and just click on that. And then there'll be a little box that opens up, and you can just raise your hand by clicking at the very bottom, I want to raise my hand.
Okay. So I'm looking to see if we have anybody
One
raising their hand.
question, Vinny.
Go ahead.
I know we're going to be discussing the, well, our situation with grading. I was thinking about if students are not penalized for, let's say, a grade point average decline, or even one that stays neutral. We know that there are students probably from fall who are working to raise GPAs in the spring. So I'm wondering, in terms of financial aid or graduate student assistantships, if there isn't a discussion with that office in terms of also, I think, holding safe students who may have had GPAs that dipped in the fall, and we're probably counting on you know, an improvement in spring to make them perhaps eligible for graduate students. So I'm also thinking about looking back, not just looking forward.
Yeah.
We'll let the provost answer that, but very quickly, you know, this resolution does not prevent faculty from assigning you know, appropriate grades. If a student has earned an A in a course, I don't believe that this would preclude a faculty member from giving a grade that would improve a student's GPR. But go ahead, Provost, please.
So thank you, Finney, and thank you, Nancy, for that question. It's a great question, one we've talked about a lot. So we have contacted through the Office of Financial Aid both the state and the Department of Education, both of whom have a say in this matter. The state through the lottery scholarship, the feds, of course, through the administration of all of the federal financial aid, and both have given us a lot of latitude in the way that we approach this, including latitude on the lottery scholarship, where there's normally a 2.5 GPA. And so our intention is to apply all of the flexibility that they have given us because we agree. That's why I think and I don't think there's one single answer to this. I think we should look at students in the best possible light and give them the best chance. And so, for example, that might mean looking at the student's full record, excluding this term. That may mean looking at their previous year as opposed to the fall. But also, one of the things that I like about the resolution before us, and it's very similar to ones at many other universities, and Rice is doing something similar, Michigan is doing something similar. I have a list here. Dartmouth is doing the same thing. Arizona is doing the same thing. That is, it gives students the ability to either have a grade or not have a grade. So that if they're trying this term to raise their GPA and the stresses and challenges of this term don't impact that, they can use their GPA from this term to help move that GPA up. But on the other hand, if this term is making it difficult, they can go to the credit, no credit option. I think the thing over which we have least control is the decision-making of graduate schools. I think we have a lot of control over our own graduate school, but not much over others. I'm in conversations with provosts across the country, and I would say that all of us look at this in the same way. We all recognize this is an unusual term, and we're going to have to look at this term differently. And so I would expect most graduate schools, not just UNM, but others, will be looking at students' records with an appropriate eye towards what happened this term and why it was special. But again, I think your point is extremely important and well taken.
Lindsay, you're next, please.
Hi, I just wanted to go back to the getting students laptops. Is there a way that we could maybe donate laptops from the department or from our own research groups or loan them out to students? Make those
Sure.
available?
Yeah, Lindsay, thanks. And several departments have done that.
Okay.
Many have done it in simply an informal way. And I would say that if you don't want to get a lot of mechanism in the way and make those loans, please do.
Yeah.
This is not the moment for us to get caught up in red tape.
Okay, so we can reach out directly to our own students. I just didn't
Absolutely.
know if there was a way that students were doing it centrally. Okay.
Yeah, there is at the Academic Technologies website, there is a form that students can fill out that then leads to them getting an appointment time to pick up one of the loaner laptops that we've stockpiled. But again, I think if you have one and you have a student in need, this is the time to simply do it.
Cool.
And we won't tell procurement.
Nancy, you're next.
Yes, I was wondering about some of the unintended consequences and inequities in grading that may result due to circumstances that are out of control for students, particularly the most vulnerable. So if we do embrace a grading system that allows for students to opt in for credit, no credit, and then others will just have regular grades, it could have the unintended consequence. So I'm wondering if you've heard of the universal grading system that's being considered at CUNY and a number of other universities that would allow students to complete all of their course requirements and receive the same grade, UP, a universal pass, and that would create uniformity for all students regardless of their circumstances at this difficult time. I'm not sure if that's something that you have seen or has been considered.
Hi, Nancy, and I may have mistaken a minute ago. I thought I was talking to you a minute ago, but no matter. This is one of the challenges of Zoom. Yes, so I have seen that system. Of course, one of the challenges we have is that no system addresses all problems. There's some schools considering that. Large number of schools going with the pass-fail system. Some are still sticking to grades. I should mention that as well. So there hasn't been a kind of a universal choice across higher education. I think the one advantage and the reason that a number of schools have gone to a system of pass-fail, allowing pass-fail for anything and allowing pass-fail to not be a negative in the way that it normally is, while still allowing students to have grades, is one, in some disciplines that's going to be critical. And so there are disciplines in which their accreditation requirements have not changed, and they're still going to require students to be graded. And so we have to have some way to deal with those disciplines. Additionally, there are students who can use this opportunity to have an impact on their GPA in a way that will be beneficial and positive. And you're right, those students, some of those students, I think not all of those students, some of those students will have additional resources that make that easier for them. But I think as well, there are students with less resources available to them who can do that same thing, for whom that would be a huge benefit. So it's we're balancing goods, and I think that's a difficult thing to do. So the fact that we do need the flexibility of still having grades in certain disciplines where accreditation requirements are going to require it, and giving students the option so that they can make the choice that's best for them, I think is I think a reasonable way to go. It's not a perfect way to go. I can't claim that. I think it's also the case that in some ways the privilege that you're describing only comes into play if we, when we evaluate transcripts, are heedless to it. And hence my point about graduate school. I think if when we look at transcripts for those applying for graduate school, if we are blind to the fact that things that happened in this term in no way should be seen as ranking people or ranking their potential, if we fail to realize that, then we're not doing our job as educators in evaluating transcripts.
Okay, Lynn, you're, hold on. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes. Yeah.
Go
Thanks.
ahead, please.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to ask a question while we have our provost and president here. Thanks so much for handling everything while so much is in flux in this unprecedented time. I actually had like kind of a twofold question. One is, I know that speaking from the libraries that we have drastically stepped up cleaning of our spaces. And so I was going to ask about that just in generally, cleaning of all of our spaces at the university, deep cleaning and systematic cleaning, because I know that that is something that universities are dealing with in general. But then also there's been some articles that have hit this week and last week about the particular dilemma that our, custodial and sanitation workers have faced, right? That they're coming in, they're on the front lines of not just COVID-19, but also the particular chemicals that they're having to use to clean. And while we have you here, I'm wondering how we're protecting our people that are on the front lines, and if you can speak to that. Thanks.
Well, thank you for those questions. These were questions that we have on the health sciences side, some protocols. We have protocols certainly on main campus and the branch campuses. Teresa Costandinides oversees really that group of our UNM workers. And so speaking to your last question, I read some of the same articles and so asked what we were doing to make sure that our people who were busy doing this cleaning knew what we were doing, why we were doing it. And it's clear they were grateful that we stepped in to ask, because but it does appear that we are communicating very well with our workers about how to remain safe, and also making sure they're aware of what environments they're working in and any precautions that they need to take. And so we will continue to monitor that. I also know that that facilities has instituted guidelines related to the appropriate cleaning of our environments. One of the reasons for really reducing access to buildings is to make sure that we can do the work where it absolutely is essential to be done. And so I can't speak specifically to the protocols that are being used. I just know that that they're being a great deal of attention is being paid to them. I hope that answers your question. And if this is a topic that people really want to know more about, that helps me. I can get the specific details and make sure that we communicate those to the community.
Thank you.
Okay, so Pamela Pyle.
Yeah, hi, Finney, thanks, just unmuting. Just a follow up to Provost Holloway's mention of the computers. So Finney put me on the Instructional Continuity Task Force representing the Senate. We just had a meeting recently, and he mentioned most of the things, but I can send to the Senate later the website where the students can apply to acquire a laptop. And also on that website, they have a map of internet access that's available both on campus and City of Albuquerque points. And two more mentions just to get them in here. There's a survey out there, a student needs assessment survey, and that students can write in and, maybe they have housing needs or mental health needs or internet needs, places for comments. And right now, everyone is getting a personal response back. So I think that's a fabulous way to communicate with our students. Sorry, I thought there was one more thing, Finney, I'm hurrying. Website, laptops, internet access survey. I think that's it. Thank you.
Liz Hutchinson.
Hi. Thanks, Finney. I'll be brief. Thank you, everybody, and my thanks as well to Provost Holloway and President Stokes. I know the leadership team has been working constantly. Picking up on the President's comment on communication, I know it's really challenging in this environment when we get different mandates from the state and other health officials all the time. And I've been trying to follow the communication very carefully and admit that colleagues have reported to me that they are having trouble sort of synthesizing the changing information and decisions about, for example, the soft rollout and the extended break. And I know we'll be working on the grading aspects later today. So I just wanted to know if you could offer any clarity here or have plans to provide more direct synthesis of where we're at in a real-time way through the website, which now is a kind of a compilation of the memos, but so that everyone can sort of see how our response is changing and see the most up-to-date response without digging into long communications. Is there a communication plan that could be helpful to us, particularly in terms of understanding our timelines as we move back to the remote instruction? Thank you.
So Liz, thank you. Absolutely. That was a piece of advice that, you know, I've seemed to, I don't know where I got it, somewhere in the last 24 hours, I believe. And it's a great suggestion that we look at everything that we've communicated and be able to be clear about the fact that, yes, we communicated this, but here's what's changed, so that everybody knows here is truly what is most up to date. So we are looking at how we can communicate that more effectively. So it's a lot to synthesize, and especially under stress, that becomes even more of a challenge. Everybody is going in a lot of different directions. So we are absolutely paying attention to that issue, and I do hope that you'll see something that is easier for everyone to understand and a different system of communication in the not too distant future.
And to add to that just a little bit, one of the things we've done that I think is helpful is we're now starting to pass all broad communications through a single person so that they can be read for consistency, and we know that they are where things have changed and where not. But clearly this is something for us to work on, so thanks.
That's it.
Does anyone else have a question for the provost or the president? Okay, thank you both for your leadership and for being here today with us. Really appreciate that. The next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. Consists of 2 items. Our faculty senate committee appointments. Rick, can you post those, please?
Finney, as a point of order, I assume I can hang out?
Point of privilege, I think.
As a point of privilege, may I hang out?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, please, if you will, read over. These are the names that we have so far. This is by far the most complete set that we've had since I started doing this. And I anticipate in the next week or 2 that we'll have all of our committees filled. And then that's well before the end of our fall semester. Rick, can you pull that down, please, and put up our Form Cs? Rick, are you there?
Sorry about that. It was muted. Finney, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you
Okay.
have Form Cs for us?
Can you see that?
I don't see the Form Cs, no.
Okay, let me try again.
John Russell, can I get you to mute, and Pamela Pyle, please?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, is that visible?
It is.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So I'll read those for folk who may not be able to see. We have Form C 2652 is honors college designation. This is a revision, department level. We have Form C 2610, it's a cert, digital media arts. That's a name change for the major. We have C 2608, that's AAS digital arts, our digital media arts. That's a name change for the degree. We have C 2532, PharmD, Doctor of Pharmacy, HSC. This is a revision of the degree. We have C 2494, subject code ATED, Athletic Training Education. This is a new Form D. This is a new subject code. We have Form C 2472, MPH concentration, Health System Services and Policies from HSC. This is a revision of the concentration. We have Form C 2371. It's a BA in Women's Studies. It's a revision of the major. And finally, we have C 2077, BA Criminology. That's a revision to the major. If those of you who are on phone have any questions, can you raise your hands now, please? Don't see any. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the consent agenda is passed. The next agenda on our, next topic on our agenda is an information item from Associate Professor Sarita Jokargas from the Honors College about food and housing security and homelessness among UNM students. Dr. Kargas, are you with us?
I am.
Dr. Kargas, you have about
Finney, you just went silent, but I guess you're handing it over to me. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for allowing my colleague and I to speak to you briefly. As he said, I'm from the Honors College and my pedagogical focus is on human rights. Amy, do you want to introduce yourself? And Amy Neal is here with me from Speech and Hearing. We're part of a group of 8 concerned faculty members from around the university that have been doing research on hunger and housing insecurity among the college students for the last 18 months before the pandemic, obviously. We'd like to briefly share some of the concerning data we found and invite your participation in addressing the problem for UNM students. So the leader in this research is Professor Goldrick Robb, who has established the Hope Center for College Community and Justice at Templeton. The Hope Center recently conducted the largest survey ever across 123 colleges with 86,000 student participants. And they found 41% food insecurity and 48% housing insecurity. We believe that we will have similar rates at UNM. She offers some economic reasons for this. I'll share just 4 quick points. Since 2000, the cost of attendance at public universities is up by 54%. Today, the share of state resources invested in higher ed is about the same as it was in 1966. Pell Grants used to cover 80% of the cost of attendance. Today, it covers less than 1/3. And since 2003, the mean family income of all but the wealthiest 5% of Americans fell or stagnated. So no data has been gathered about the prevalence of hunger or housing problems among UNM students. We all know there's plenty of anecdotal information. Therefore, we've designed a survey based on the HOPE study. And with the support of the provost and the chancellor, we are emailing an IRB approved survey to 12,000 students on April 15th. It consists of about 20 questions about food and housing security. Our stratified random sampling method will take into account Pell eligibility status, self-reported gender and ethnicity, and discipline area of study, so as to survey students in a proportional manner. Now we have an additional goal of doing this survey again in the next academic year to have data compare with this spring's, thus being able to comment on the impact of the current crisis on our students. And now I'll turn it over to my friend Amy, who's going to share some resources and some of the solutions our research team is working on. Amy? Amy? Okay, I will take over Amy's part. Resources we already have are under the Dean of Students is the Lobo Food Pantry, which is doesn't receive money for food from UNM. The Roadrunner Food Pantry supports it. UNM has provided the space, but it is running on very little. Roadrunner Food Bank is now operating in conjunction with the city of Albuquerque on the South Campus. The Dean of Students also runs a Center for Financial Capability for tax assistance. They have a short-term loan program for up to $800, which is still active right now. And our team has been gathering best practices from around the country on how campuses are handling food and housing insecurity. And we have different people working, different faculty with different expertise working on different issues. A couple of us are working on the food pantry, helping it become more sustainable. We have someone who used to work for the government, the state, on SNAP access and EBT access. We want to train more staff to work with that. We have someone from Anderson School who works on stigma and want to address the problem of stigma with access to help. We are looking at instituting a nationwide program called Swipe Out Hunger in the dining halls, where students can give dining credits to each other. And we're researching policies at the state level to help improve food and housing. So we want these solutions to be based on evidence, and therefore we're seeking data about what our students' needs are, and we're here to ask your support in advertising for our survey. We'll send you a flyer via the ALFAC list, which we are going to ask you to post in your online courses. And it will advertise the study, asking students who receive the survey to please take it. And I'm open to any questions you might have.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Hi, Sarita. I'm Tracy from the Gallup campus. And since about 2018, I've been doing research on trauma, the impact of trauma on our students. I've done several presentations on it. I'm really interested in this topic. I know there are several Gallup students who are homeless. I've had some of them. And in the meantime, I do assign as a research paper topic food as a general topic, but often they do cover things like feeding America and our community pantry and so on. So I think this is really important, and I would love for our branch to be able to participate somehow. And if I can be looped in some way, please include us, because like I said, I've got lots of data of my own, and I'd be happy to work with this project in some way.
Great, I'm making notes and I will be in touch with you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Dennis, please.
Hi, I'm Dennis from the Los Alamos campus, and I was thinking about the same thing. I'm not doing research on this, but I know that there is a problem on our campus with many of our students who do not have enough to eat. So I am hoping that you will be reaching out to the advisors and counselors at our campus about this as well.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Cheryl?
I just wanted to ask if you will collect data with the branch campuses. I am at Valencia, and I would love to get some information for down there if that's possible.
We hadn't currently planned to. At first, when we started this 18 months ago, we did not have a penny. And we were doing this on a shoestring. And over time, it has grown because we got support from the provost, because suddenly the chancellor became interested, I think because of the interest in getting the homeless campus. So we just found out that we're eligible for an NSF grant, which is interested in the topic, and also COVID-related research, which we asked if they could discount it, and they said yes. So I'm hoping that we'll get even more money, and then we would definitely plan on doing an extended study and absolutely include the branch campuses. But we'll continue the conversation for sure, because that's been in the back of our mind all the time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for just one more question. Does anyone have another question?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is Rebecca Blankley from Radiologic Sciences. How could this body, Faculty Senate, assist with food resources for the pantry? Would you
Amy was ready to answer that question. Are you on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked to the Dean of Students, Nasha Torres, this morning. They do run the Campus Lobo Food Pantry, and they did give out 40+ boxes of food in a drive-up situation earlier this week. They're not exactly sure how they're going to continue given the restrictions on gatherings, but they desperately need funding. They need donations, and we can send everyone a link to the UNM Foundation donation page for the Campus Lobo Food Pantry. The Roadrunner Food Bank is also running some food pantries in conjunction with the city of Albuquerque on South Campus, and Roadrunner Food Bank can certainly use donations. Cash donations are the most important things right now.
And Nasha Torres told us a $200 donation takes care of the food pantry for a week, was it, Amy?
A month, I think she said.
A month.
Okay.
Okay.
So I don't believe we have any more questions right now. We need to get on to the next thing. However, Amy, just one point, you may ask Nasha if they can get a QR code, and you can distribute those QR codes, and they have a much better, people respond to that easy to give immediate donations. So if they could get a QR code that they could share out, that might be useful to them. Thank you both for your comments today, Professor Neal and Professor Kargas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a COVID-19 update, but I'm not sure. Brandy, are you there?
I'm here, Finney. Yeah, we weren't able to secure anyone from the health sciences to come and give us an update about this.
Got it. So we'll move on to our next item, which is the COVID-19 resolution. This is an action item. I want to speak a little bit about how we'll go through the process. Since we don't require a roll call on each of the 5 commitments and the 4 authorizations, I'm going to ask that I'll call for amendments to each of the for each section of the resolution, and then we'll have a roll call vote at the end of this. Adam, I know that's against what we had talked about earlier, but that's, I think, for the sake of time and getting through this, I think that's how I'd like to try to do it. So I'm going to share on my screen with you a Word document, and I'm going to try to juggle some things here. A Word document that has the current resolution, and at the end of it, you'll see one amendment that I've already made that we can talk to when we get to it for number 9. Most of the concern that that's been raised has been about point number 9 on the resolution, and how that should have read was that the Faculty Senate authorizes that if an instructor of record is impacted by COVID-19 and cannot deliver coursework in a remote instructional form. This was not meant to give carte blanche approval to every professor who might want to do this. They will be allowed to grade the entire roster of students as CRNC based upon work performed prior to March 30th, 2020, unless the instructor's department decides to assume responsibilities for completing grading on behalf of the impacted instructor of record. I'll put that up here in just a second. And then I'll also try to manage our, I'll try to manage our amendments, but also manage the order of questions and comments. So just a second, to give me a second to put this up. Okay. I'm not sure that you're seeing. Okay. Brandy, do you see the document that I'm sharing?
It's just a thin white line, a vertical line in the middle of the screen, Finney.
Right.
Okay, let me try again.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, got it.
Okay, great. So I'm going to turn to editing. And let's see, participants, got that. Okay. So before us, we have the Faculty Senate Resolution COVID-19 emergency measures for student academic success. And for the sake of people who may not have access to it, and also for those who are only going to have audio, an audio recording of this, the UNM faculty recognizes that supporting instructional continuity during the COVID-19 pandemic will require unprecedented collaboration between UNM faculty, students, and staff, and seconds the administration's efforts to ensure that students can continue their work remotely in spring 2020 and make progress to degree completion. We also understand that because of COVID-19, students may be experiencing unforeseeable challenges in accessing food, housing, health, family care, employment, and computers and internet access throughout the remainder of the semester. We implore the university to work diligently to meet these needs. Student financial aid is also at risk, and while we have supportive guidance from both state and federal levels, there are still concerns in this area. For discretionary academic scholarships managed by UNM, we encourage the university to use fall 2019 GPAs to determine scholarship eligibility for fall 2020. We are especially concerned about students who are approaching graduation. We feel that the university has an obligation to support our students through this crisis, which includes eliminating administrative obstacles that may prevent them from graduating on time. As a faculty, we encourage the administration to use wisdom and humanity in its decision-making and to trust in the UNM faculty's judgment in academic matters. We anticipate that the university's administration will support the UNM faculty as we work to keep our students engaged and focused on degree completion during the COVID-19 pandemic. We begin with whereas the University of New Mexico is taking extraordinary measures to address the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on our academic community, whereas the UNM faculty feels strongly that UNM students should not suffer from or be held accountable for circumstances produced by the COVID-19 pandemic, whereas the UNM faculty is unequivocally committed to student success now. Therefore, be it resolved that the UNM faculty is committed, and we have 5 commitments, and then further 4 authorizations. I will go by these one at a time. I will read them, and then I will ask for amendments. And if you have an amendment, make sure that it is a very specific amendment. It's not that we want to limit discussion. We don't want to do that. But what we want to, if we're going to have a discussion, it should be over something, a very specific change that you feel needs to be made. Okay? let me adjust one thing here so that I can see that at the same time. Okay. Just a second. All right. The first resolution number one is that we are committed to exercising flexibility with respect to deadlines and attendance in order to facilitate communications during this time of crisis. Faculty commit to communicating due dates for graded assignments within a minimum of 1 week of advance notice. Are there any amendments? Liz.
Hey there, Finney. I do have an amendment, and by way of context, just in referencing my earlier comment on communication, the feedback from students I've received has suggested a lot of confusion about these next 2 weeks in our 16-week courses. And I wanted to ask for an amendment that would add the following language, authorizing or instructing, I'm not sure, instructors to suspend graded assignments during the soft rollout period of March 23rd to April 5th. In other words, it puts a finer point on asking for a specific kind of accommodation or flexibility with respect to graded work.
Give me the specific amendment.
Sure.
Agree to suspend.
To suspend graded assignments during the soft rollout period of March 23rd to April 5.
Assignments during the soft rollout period.
March 23rd to April 5.
Committed to exercising flexibility, blah, blah, blah. Minimum of 1 week of advance notice. Agree to suspend graded assignments during the soft rollout period, March 23rd through April 5th. Do we have any further amendments to number one?
I just raised my hand just as a point of clarification, and this is Nancy Lopez. The previous communication suggested that those students that were enrolled in online would just continue as normal. So we just need to clarify, does that soft rollout apply for the online? And I would say it would, given that everyone's life has been disrupted, right? But we need to clarify that because the provost office has kind of suggested that online courses that were previously scheduled would continue as normal.
Nancy, you need to give me a specific amendment.
My question to the group, I'm not suggesting it, is should we ask whether or not this soft rollout applies to online, because all the previous...
Do you have an amendment that would address that?
Finney?
Yes.
Oh, so this amendment that was just proposed needs to be voted on before going to other amendments.
Unless Liz would accept it as a friendly amendment that this would also apply to online, I'm not sure.
So Adam, are you saying that the amendment to this has to be amended before we go to the next?
Yes.
Okay. All those, wait a minute. We can do this, Adam, in the same way that we do the consent agenda, right? So is there any discussion of Dr. Hutchinson's amendment? Hearing none, we'll move to the next amendment to.
So Finney, did you just take unanimous consent for that amendment?
I did.
Then declare it passed, please.
Okay, so that amendment passes. Are there any further amendments?
The next amendment would be that this would also apply to online.
Okay, so all you would say is I move to amend resolution number 1 to say, and then I fix it.
I move to amend resolution number 1 to say this would also apply to online courses.
Adam, just a point of clarification. We wouldn't have, do we need to second these?
If you're taking unanimous consent, then you don't necessarily need a second, but a second is ideal once a motion is made.
Okay, do I have a second for Nancy's amendment?
Second.
Is there any further comment?
I do have a question. Nancy, are you also referring to second 8-week courses?
That's the intent, that this would apply to the idea is that everyone's life has been disrupted in ways that we couldn't even begin to imagine. So everyone's ability to complete coursework has been disrupted. So there should be no exceptions to that.
Okay, so we have to, the protocol that we're following is that I'll look up on the screen to see who's raised their hand. And I'll recognize those persons. Liz, I see your hand up. And the discussion at this point, unless it comes from a senator, I'll only recognize faculty senators at this point. Sorry, Asada. Cheryl.
I have a quick question. It's not about the amendments, but it's about the previous paragraph. So I don't know when you would like my comment of that versus the actual amendments.
At the end, I'll ask, are there any further amendments to the resolution? At that point, you can make a specific amendment to any part of the document. James?
Thank you.
James?
Yeah.
You mean me? Oh, sorry, wrong James.
James Degnan, I'm sorry.
Right. So saying this would apply to online courses, I think it's not very clear from that language if it's meant to only apply to online courses. So I think it should say something like this would apply also to online courses, or this would apply to all courses, including online courses, just to be clear.
Do I have a second for James's amendment?
Second.
All right. Is there any further comment on the second amendment? This would apply to all courses, including online courses. Constantine?
Now, what I'm not clear is this. I believe that the original language offered by Liz was a guidance to the instructors, which somehow didn't appear. Is that the case here, or is that an obligation? I'm not sure what it is that we agreed to with the previous amendment, that now this would apply as well to online courses. And I believe there was a question as well about second 8-week courses.
Mm-hmm. I took the specific amendment from Dr. Hutchison to be agreed to suspend graded assignments during the soft rollout period, March 23rd to April 5th. The second amendment is this would apply to all courses, including online. The original version is Nancy Lopez. We can amend those if you see fit, Constantine.
Maybe we should add this would include online and second 8-week courses.
Okay. Do I have a second for Constantine's amendment?
Second.
Do you have any discussion? Hearing none, are there any further amendments? I see Stephanie Bean.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Finney, are you going to make the amended document available along with the agenda and everything else afterwards?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Is there any further discussion of resolution number 1? Hearing none, we'll move on to resolution number 2, committed to providing alternative and makeup assignments. James and Constantine, can you put your hands down then, unless you are raising them again? Thank you. Number 2, committed to providing alternative and makeup assignments for students who have been sick or have cared for someone diagnosed with COVID-19 and will not require medical notes. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, we'll move on to resolution 3. Resolved that the UNM faculty is committed to providing students with information about electing the CRNC grading option and will support a student's decision to choose that option throughout the remainder of the 2020 semester. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, we'll move on to resolution number 4. Resolution number 4, the UNM faculty is committed to using incompletes as a last resort and only under extreme circumstances, given the undue burden that incompletes will place on both faculty and students in these uncertain times. Are there any amendments? Hearing, seeing none. Dr. Hutchison.
Sorry, it's hard to find the buttons. I would offer an amendment that extends incompletes that will automatically turn to fails in the present semester be extended into the fall semester. I think we're going to have a logjam of incompletes. I don't know if that's the right place to offer this amendment, but it was brought to my attention by several faculty.
I think that would be an insertion, and we can insert that here as number 5 if you'd like. You can move for an insertion at this point.
All right. I would move that, let's see, committed to seeking the extension of incompletes expiring in the spring 2020 semester into the fall semester. Is
This
that
will
clear?
happen automatically. They will have until the end of the fall semester to remove the incomplete they get in the spring semester. This is already in the system.
If I don't misunderstand Liz, she's talking about the incompletes that are scheduled to lapse at the end of this semester. Is that right, Liz? Like from the fall?
Correct.
Okay, so that you're essentially asking to extend that period to the fall semester.
Yes.
Now, when you say to the fall semester, is that the beginning of the semester or the end of the fall semester?
You got me there. I think it's what the registrar decides is feasible. I think a semester extension would be generous and humane.
This is already in the system, Fanny. The students will have until the end of the fall semester before their incomplete turn into an F. When they turn their assignment in, this is in consultation with the faculty. I don't know if we need an amendment. This is already in the system.
Is this a change to existing policy? I mean, because I'm still getting emails saying your incomplete is going to lapse into an F at the end of this spring.
Correct.
I think what Liz is advocating is an extension of the existing period for one additional semester, basically placing on lapsing incompletes, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. But Liz, it occurs to me that that's probably an authorization as opposed to a commitment. All right.
All right. Got it.
I think we should move that down to number 10.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, we'll come to that. We'll come back to it You can work on the language, and we'll come back to that when we get to 10. All right?
I have a question. How this will apply to the student who graduating in the spring?
If they have an incomplete that did not lapse into an F,
If they receive an incomplete this semester and they are graduating, so when can they submit the assignment to remove the incomplete and still graduate?
they can still submit. This doesn't prevent them from submitting the grade to get rid of the incomplete. So
That's
they can
correct.
do that. But if they fail to do that, they would go into the summer, and the incomplete, as I've seen for other students who've had incompletes with me, it simply doesn't show up on their transcript.
So they will not graduate until they fulfill the incomplete.
No, they'll graduate as long as they fulfill graduation requirements, unless the incomplete is a graduation requirement, and then they wouldn't be able to graduate because they haven't fulfilled the requirement.
If it's a core course, okay.
Mm-hmm. But if it's an elective, it simply doesn't count against them or for them. At least that's what I've seen.
Unless the elective is required for graduation.
Right. If it's required for graduation, they can't. It won't have anything to do with the grade. It'll have to do with having met the requirements for the degree.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I need to get rid of that. All right. So we'll move on to, I believe that we are on 4, right?
Vinny, I'm sorry.
Are we on 5? I'm sorry. Okay. So we'll move on to resolution number 5, that the UNM faculty is committed to working with colleagues in their degree programs to ensure
Pamela had her hand up there, Vinny.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it has to do with the incomplete, so I didn't want you to get past it. This is a specific problem, maybe to my college, but my colleagues may have a similar issue. We were just discussing this online today. For us, let's say a recital. A student must be enrolled in a class. So we're trying to get a waiver. Let's say they take an incomplete and they want to do their recital in the fall. We don't want them to have to pay to take that class again, just so they can, book a date in Keller Hall. So I'd like to ask that if a student has to enroll for a credit in order to remove or fulfill their incomplete, that the fee for this course be waived.
Okay, let's do that at the authorization at the end, Pamela.
Okay.
Okay. So resolution number 5 is that the UNM faculty is committed to working with our colleagues in their degree programs to ensure that vital content is appropriately reviewed in the fall 2020 semester to prevent penalty to students for partial gaps in requisite knowledge due to spring 2020 instructional continuity challenges. Are there any amendments? Martin Jones, please.
Yeah, I have concerns about whether this could actually be properly enacted. The phrase appropriately reviewed is pretty ambiguous. And also, I think given the administration's, I think, pretty valiant attempt to make sure instruction is happening this spring, we're putting an undue burden on future faculty. I understand that this has a positive intent, but I think the devil's in the details. So I would like to actually have this stricken. I move to have it stricken.
So you move to have the entire resolution stricken or appropriately reviewed stricken?
I would actually move to have the whole number 5 stricken.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Actually, I think we need to, Adam, I think we need to vote on that then, right?
Yep.
Correct. Vote on the amendment to strike number 5.
All right.
Is there a way I can revise that so we don't have to go through a whole roll call?
Certainly, you can propose an amendment that changes the language so that it's acceptable if you'd like.
Yes, I'd like to propose an amendment to revise the wording of it. to take out appropriately reviewed.
Is it both words or just appropriately?
Yeah, taking out appropriately would, I think, should work.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any, are there, Irene, I see your hand. Is there a further amendment?
That's for number 6.
Okay. Are there any other amendments to resolution number 5?
Well, take a vote on the amendment that was just made.
But the amendment was not substantive.
It was an amendment. All amendments must be voted on.
I did it by consent.
Voted on at the end.
Is there any further, are there any further amendments? Hearing none, we'll move on to our authorizations. Further be it resolved that the UNM Faculty Senate authorizes faculty to record a grade of CR for a student who has elected a CR/NC grading option if the student has successfully completed 75% of the course. Are there any amendments?
I have one. This is Irene Vasquez.
Go ahead, Irene.
So just based on what I know some folks are doing in one of the departments I'm housed in, I wonder if we couldn't add at the end so that it would read completed 75% of the course or 75% of the course assignments as designated by the instructor. Or it could say department, sorry. That was my
Okay.
fault. Because the courses are, well, I'm sorry about that. I don't know how to block that call.
So the specific amendment, I think successfully completed 75% of the course requirements should answer your concern. So if we had,
I have an amendment. I would like to add an amendment to strike the 75% and replace it, but has successfully completed the course education requirements.
do I have a second for that?
Second.
Second.
Has completed the course?
Completed the course education requirements, and this will be left to the instructor to decide that. Because at the present time, it's very hard to, we are not requiring assignment to be turned on time, and we don't know what will happen in the future. So if the instructor feel that by the student attendance and interaction in the class have fulfilled or completed the education requirements to move on, then this will be adequate.
Can it be educational requirements or?
Might I suggest?
No, the education requirements, it's how much the student have to learn to really get the grade in the class.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We'll suspend this kind of being counting based on homework assignments.
On this one, I think we do need a roll call vote if we're going to do that. Go ahead.
May I propose a friendly amendment to the language that Mohammed has provided?
There are no, there's no such thing as a friendly amendment.
Oh, sorry.
You can motion for an amendment, but we have to, I think, vote on whether or not we're going to move. This is a significant change.
Yeah.
So we have to vote first, and then you can come back and amendment, Liz, if you'd like.
Okay. It was a simple student learning outcomes instead of education requirements.
Yeah, I know. So we'll have a roll call vote on number 6. That the faculty resolves that the UNM Faculty Senate resolves or authorizes faculty to report a grade of CR for student has selected a CR/NC grading option if the student has completed the education requirements of the course as opposed to 75%. I'll put the motion, and Rick, will you please call the roll? Again, if you are in favor, remember, pay attention to where we are in line in terms of alphabetical order. And if you are in favor, say signify by saying aye. And if you are opposed, say no. And this requires a 2/3 vote, right, Adam?
No, this is just majority.
Just a majority. All right. So Rick, please call the roll.
Alan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Caleb?
Aye.
Cash?
Aye.
Cassiano?
Aye.
Christopher?
No.
Aye.
Constantine?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Duncan? Elizabeth?
Aye.
Ezra?
No.
Heather Canavan?
Aye.
Heather Jarrell?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Irene?
Aye.
Jacob? James?
No.
Jan?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Jerome?
Aye.
John Matthews?
Aye.
John Russell?
Aye.
Kuhn?
Aye.
Lee? Lee Brown? Okay. Lindsay?
No.
Loretta?
Aye.
Marina?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Matthew?
Aye.
Mohammed?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Osborne? You were going to reply online. Thank you. Kasarm? Rebecca?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Robert Valdez?
Aye.
Robert Tepper?
No.
Scott Anderson?
Aye.
Shirley Haying?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Steven Hernandez?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Victoria?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Rick. I'm not being called. This is Christopher Lyons.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm not being called either. Cheryl Bryan. I should be in attendance. I had some audio trouble in the beginning.
Oh,
and
okay.
That may be why.
Okay. Cheryl, what is your vote?
Aye.
And then Christopher, what is your vote?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And
This is Mary.
Looks like I've been skipped again also, and I vote aye.
And what was your name?
Paul Affeck, A-F-E-K.
Okay. Got you.
Are there any other faculty senators who have not voted?
Anyone that I did not call?
Rick, did you get the two I just said? Osborne Pearson and Mark
Yes.
Langfeld both said aye.
Okay. I got Osborne's and then Mark's eye.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Lee Brown. I couldn't unmute in time, but I vote
Okay.
aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other faculty senators who have not voted? The ayes have it. Rick will report out the specific numbers. Rick, can you report the numbers, please?
Okay, give me just one moment.
Finney, a senator asked a question if we could vote by raising our hands. It has to be a verbal aye?
I believe so. Yes, it's a roll. It has to be a roll call vote.
Okay, I thought so too, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good idea, actually.
Uh, 39 for, 5 against.
Okay, that's our majority. Are there any further amendments to authorization 6?
Can I offer an amendment?
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm concerned that educational requirement is vague. This is per Liz's comment before, because it suggests to me like all the education, all the papers, all the assignments in the class. I would prefer changing education requirements to student learning outcomes. I think that's more in spirit with the original amendment.
Can you offer an amendment to that effect?
To change education requirements to say student learning outcomes.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
I also have an amendment, if that's okay at this point.
Is there any further discussion of amendment student learning outcomes for the course, changing that language? Hearing none, I'll entertain additional amendments.
So I think that the word successfully also is a little bit subjective. And to me, if someone successfully completes the student learning outcomes, then that would be, I don't know, I feel like the bar for credit, no credit is maybe.
Can you offer?
Yeah, so anyway, sorry, can we strike the word successfully?
Do I have a second?
Second.
The amendment now reads, authorizes faculty to record a grade of CR for a student who has elected a CRNC grading option if the student has completed the student learning outcomes for the course. Is there any discussion about that last amendment? Are there any further amendments?
You can move the word student. It's redundant. So to be if the student has completed the learning outcomes for the course. So strike the second student.
But I think that's a specific formal thing that we put in our syllabi.
Do I have a second? Not hearing a second. That amendment will not be made. Are there any further amendments to item number 6?
Do we still have discussion open?
If you want to, if you want a motion to amend, we can, prefer to have an amendment.
There's no way to discuss it.
Of course, go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I just think that I thought that the credit, no credit option would be for students who could not necessarily complete all of the student learning outcomes. And then that would be an option that you could get credit if you didn't complete all of it, but you completed a certain amount of it, then you could get credit. So I'm just confused, I guess.
This authorization is a complement to the earlier commitment about the CR/NC grading option that basically will give students the opportunity to elect that.
Right.
And that then we will authorize the faculty to record that grade if a student has made that election. And we don't ask them for medical excuses, or that we accept that our students are going to, if they're affected by this, we're not going to force them to prove that they're affected by it. And so the idea would be that they could, if the instructor allowed them to select that CR/NC grading option, then there could be a situation where that student could not complete the course or complete all of the course requirements, but had, in this case, met the student learning outcomes for the course to the degree that the instructor feels is okay. And in that case, could offer that CR grade. Do we need to discuss that further?
Finney, just a quick interruption. Pamela Cheek is texting. Would it be helpful to have any input from someone in that office or no?
Input in what respect?
I don't know if it would make anything more clear, or if it's, I'm just asking because she just reached out to me. She wanted to make sure that the one thing about the credit, no credit was that the student has the option, right? So I just want to put that out there.
That's earlier on in the resolution.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm following. I'm with you.
Okay.
So, Jenny, are we putting successfully back in? I personally think that successfully should be in there, because successfully to me means a C or better, which would be a credit.
I think we already voted.
And that, but it wasn't seconded, correct?
No, we haven't voted on the striking successfully.
Okay.
I had another suggestion, but I'm not sure when I can make that. This is Nancy.
You know, in terms of, we want to follow our parliamentary procedures here. And so what we have, if someone wants to amend number 6, we can certainly entertain whatever amendment you'd like to make. If it is amending it to put something back that's been stricken, I don't think that there's anything to preclude you from making that motion. The body would then decide whether or not we would include it. So are there any other amendments to item number 6?
I move to amend the word completed and instead replace that with demonstrate a good faith commitment to learning throughout the semester, because again, it shows that the student actually did work towards those student learning outcomes rather than completed all of the learning outcomes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Nancy, repeat that language, please. Nancy?
Sorry, I was speaking when it was on mute. It would replace the word completed with demonstrated a good faith commitment to learning throughout the semester. So that allows the faculty member the flexibility to interpret that as making a good faith effort. Maybe they didn't complete all of the learning outcomes.
I just need the language, please. Demonstrated a good faith commitment
to learning throughout the semester.
And I'm assuming that would strike everything after that?
I think it's important to keep the student learning outcomes, so I'm not sure what we would need to add to make that run smoothly, but
Would that work?
It could say that meet the student learning outcomes course. So throughout the semester,
Has met.
but is that the, Nancy, is that what you were?
I think so. It's the idea that they did make a good faith effort. If we had 4 learning outcomes, they met 3 of them, right? It doesn't have to give a figure, but has made a good faith effort to meet the student learning outcomes.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
May I add another word there that might help? How about, yes, how about we say, and has substantively or substantially met the student learning outcomes?
Actually, we're still on, you can amend that, but we haven't gotten past the actual making that statement. So hold on, Ferg and Constantine, we'll see. So at this point, I think we're back to a roll call vote. And then we can amend that on the other, wait a minute. Adam.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're back at a roll call vote. But we need to vote on the amendment as it is, because there are no friendly amendments, because that's where Liz, we can't amend, can't have friendly amendments. So.
But I'm sorry, Finney, isn't Nancy's, this is Nancy's proposal. Can't you just put demonstrated a good faith commitment to learning and meeting the student learning outcomes?
That's
It's
not
a
what,
simpler sentence.
that's not what Nancy put forward.
I accept that. I think that that's a better way to frame it.
Okay, Finney, here's what you do. If there is no objection, then that amendment will be made. We can use unanimous consent since there is no such thing as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
It's just a simpler sentence.
All right. So
Demonstrated a good faith commitment to learning and meeting the student learning outcomes for the course.
are there any objections to that? Hearing none. So in that case, couldn't we then, because Nancy has heard what Nancy's heard what Constantine said, right? So Constantine was making a suggestion that, are there any objections to Constantine's comments about Nancy's amendment? Constantine, again, what was your suggestion?
The current wording satisfies also what I was trying to get at. So
it does? Okay, great. That's good news.
I'm happy with the current wording.
All right. Is there any further discussion? If not, hearing none, I'll move the question. Rick, please call the roll. Again, everyone who's in favor say aye, and all those who are opposed say no. Rick, call the roll, please.
Okay, Alan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Caleb?
Aye.
Cash?
Aye.
Cassiano? Cheryl?
Aye.
Christopher?
Aye.
Constantine?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Duncan? Elizabeth?
Aye.
Ezra?
Aye.
Heather Canavan? Heather Jarrell, Ingrid Hendricks,
Aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Jacob,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Jan,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
John Matthews,
Aye.
John Russell,
No.
Kun Huang, Lee,
Aye.
Lindsay,
Aye.
Loretta,
Aye.
Marina,
Aye.
Mark, Martin, Matthew,
Aye.
Mohammed,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Osborne. Okay.
Okay, Rick Osborne and Mark Langsfeld both said aye.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Paul Affleck, Rebecca Blankley,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Robert Valdez,
Aye.
Robert Tepper,
Aye.
Scott Anderson,
Aye.
Shirley,
Aye.
Stephanie,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and Victoria.
Aye.
Okay, it was all but one no, Finney.
Again, I wasn't called. Rick, this is Christopher Lyons.
Oh, I called you. I'm sorry.
There's
It-
two Christophers, just so that's, I'm not sure who answered first, but I say aye as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I apologize.
No worries.
Gotcha.
Are there any other faculty senators who have not been called upon, who haven't had a chance to vote? All right.
Hey, Rick, it's Cassiano. I may have not unmuted my phone. Aye.
Okay. Thank you. No, I didn't have your vote.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Let's see. I know this has taken a long time, but I hope everyone agrees that this is very much worth it. Okay. The ayes have it. And are there any other amendments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next authorization, number 7. The Faculty Senate authorizes a waiver of credit, non-credit requirements for spring 2020 for undergraduate, graduate, and professional students. The credit, non-credit courses taken in the spring 2020 will not count against the standard maximum 24 credit hours for undergraduates and 6 credit hours for graduate and professional students. Are there any amendments? Seeing no hands raised. Irene?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, put your hand down. Nancy? Okay. Thank you. Hearing none, we will move on to number 8. Faculty Senate authorizes that a grade of CR in a course completed in spring 2020 may count as a prerequisite within a degree program sequence, even if the degree program does not allow CR grades. And I want to emphasize that that is may. That is a may count as a prerequisite within a degree program sequence, even if the degree program does not allow CR grades. Are there any amendments? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 9. I will read this as I think it should have been amended.
I'm sorry, Finney. I did have an amendment. I was trying to raise my hand. I'm not sure if you saw it.
I did not. Go ahead.
So this is for number 8, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so after may count, I would add for all degree requirements, including prerequisites within a degree sequence, etc.
Another second.
Second.
Okay, Nancy, what was the language?
Right after it says may count, I would add for all degree requirements, comma, including I would strike as a prerequisite. I would just write prerequisites with a plural.
Strike and put prerequisites?
No, strike as a prerequisite. It would just read including prerequisites with an S at the end.
Like that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Are there any further amendments? Okay. We will move to the last, or number 9. It won't be the last. We'll move to number 9. And what you see here is my revision. Authorizes that if an instructor of record is impacted by COVID-19 and cannot deliver coursework in a remote instructional form, they will be allowed to grade the entire roster of students as CR based upon the work performed prior to March 30th, 2020, unless the instructor's department decides to assume responsibility for completing grading on behalf of the instructor of record. Do I have any discussion of that change?
I just want to second it.
Okay. That change has been seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll ask for any amendments to number 9. Yes, Robert.
Finney, I just wanted to, I don't really know how to express this concern. If an instructor is in fact taken ill with COVID-19 and they can't deliver their course, they're not going to be able to deliver the grade either. It's very unlikely that they'll be able to, well, some will and some won't be able to function. We just have to recognize that.
Okay. Do you have language, an amendment to that effect, Rob?
No, I just needed to raise that concern because some people who will come down with COVID-19 will not be able to function, so they won't be able to actually do any of these things. While others will have less severe COVID-19 conditions and will be able to at least tell somebody in their department that they're ill and they need to do a pass-fail. We just need to recognize that some people may not be able to function to even provide the pass-fail.
I think that's an insertion, and maybe that becomes insertion number 11 or 12, that where we say something to the effect that we authorize departments in cases where instructors are incapacitated by COVID-19, that, you know, their department can complete grading for the course. Would that be sufficient?
I'm not in the classroom anymore these days, except for a pass-fail type arrangement. So I'll leave it to those of you who are in classrooms to
Vinny?
see whether that makes sense or not.
I have Nancy first, please.
I also had the same question because my thought was that's, as a matter of course, any instructor, regardless of what the source of the illness is, will have someone in the department take over that course. So I almost feel like this is not necessary, this amendment, because should it be for a heart attack? Should it be for a stroke? It is a matter of course that every single department would take over that course and then proceed with grading according to whatever they have decided. So I don't know why we need a specific one for COVID.
We do need that in the case of instructors, for example, if someone in their family is affected and they're caring for someone, they may not themselves be, contract COVID-19, God forbid, right? But may be distracted enough that they would want that option to be able to grade the courses based on CR and C. Maybe we can discuss that further. I think an insertion that speaks to Bob's concern later on might answer that question. But I think that we need to keep number 9. That's my own thought.
But wouldn't that apply if their family member had a heart attack or a stroke?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, in any case that they cannot deliver the coursework, I mean, we're assuming, of course, something related to COVID-19, but, this is a really incredible time. We have no idea what things are going to look like even next week. So I don't know if pulling it helps us. Of course, you can move to have it struck.
Penny?
Actually, Constantine is next.
I agree with Nancy in that I believe every department has already in place policies for illness of instructor where the instructor cannot, because they are not able to, because they are ill, somehow fill in. So what we are talking about is exactly what you're discussing, which is different, and which is if for some other reason the instructor is not able to essentially go on with the grading as normal. So I think we're okay. We don't need to add anything. I agree with your insertion, and I don't think we need to consider the possibility of the instructor being so sick that they can't even put in an R grade. In that case, I think there are policies and departments that cover that.
Liz?
Yeah, I just think that the thing that this number 9 authorizes is the application of a credit, non-credit based on work prior to March 30th. I think that's actually the new piece, not why somebody's incapacitated and not whether a department can choose to carry on the course on behalf of the instructor, which we already do. So I support this article as amended because I think it's important to acknowledge that if an instructor is too ill to continue, he or she has a prior record of the student's work up through March 30th that can serve as the basis for credit, no credit. I think that's what this authorization does.
Okay. So we have at this point, I don't hear an amendment to this. Do I have an amendment for number 9? Constantine, Liz, Nancy, go. Please put your hands down if you don't have.
No, I actually did have something I wanted to ask just related to what Liz just said. So if a student had elected to get a grade and say they were earning an A+, then now the decision of the department is, well, the instructor is ill, it doesn't matter. We're not going to support your interest in receiving the grade. I'm just wondering if that's something that needs to be clarified, that would automatically disallow what the student chose in the case that they didn't want to credit, no credit.
You know, we're fortunate enough to have the provost online. Are you there, James?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you weigh in on that last point, please, as an expert?
Yeah, so as I understood this particular point, it addressed a couple of issues. And so the date March 30th is a significant date. Students who have remained enrolled through March 30th have their financial aid eligibility complete. If a student fails to be full-time before March 30th, they would in fact owe money to the federal government. So that's why the date March 30th is prominent in here. And I think the other concern here was, as Finney has noted, there are a number of things we don't know. And I'll give an example. We know of a few faculty for whom we have to find computers. And so the reason for which an instructor might be unable to complete their course could involve them being ill. It could involve a loved one being ill. It could involve simply a material inability to complete the course within the resources and constraints that we can deploy. Did that help?
Yes, I think so. I don't hear an amendment to number 9. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 10. Authorizes that any existing incomplete that is scheduled to lapse automatically to an F grade in spring 2020 shall be extended through the fall 2020 semester. You know, I agree with that in principle myself. I would want, though, let's see what we do here. And maybe this is, again, a question for the provost, right? James, if we do push this forward as an authorization, it's going to take your authority to make that so.
I will make it so.
Okay, very good.
Finney?
Yes.
And when you talk about the tuition question, ask me that again.
When I ask about the tuition question?
Yeah, I think there's an amendment coming about tuition.
Okay. All right. Okay. Are there any amendments to Dr. Hutchison's insertion that authorizes that any existing incomplete that is scheduled to lapse automatically to an F grade in spring 2020 shall be extended through the fall 2020 semester? Is there any discussion?
Pamela has her hand raised.
Oh, go ahead, Pamela. I'm sorry.
Thank you for always seeing me, Bob. I'm invisible to Finney. I think this is where you wanted me to insert the question that I'm saying. With any incompletes that require a student to enroll for a credit in the next semester, we ask that the fee for this credit be waived. I don't know if that would go here. Maybe the provost can speak to that. I was mentioning earlier that for a student to give a recital, they must enroll in a class. But if they've already done the class with us, it's simply so they can have their recital in the hall and not in their living room, right? So I have a sentence, but I don't know if it fits in this place, but this is the only place Liz brought up incompletes. This is also relevant.
Yeah, I think it's an insertion, Pamela.
Okay.
And go ahead and
let me give you the language and you can, tip
Right.
it any way you want. With any incompletes that require a student to enroll for a credit in the next semester, comma, we ask that the fee for this credit be waived. Sorry, now I'm tracking you now.
I think we want to say that the university will waive.
Sure. Again, I did it quickly. I'm consulting with people in my department too.
Sorry. me see if I get this right, semester, comma, the university will waive
The fee for this credit or the fee period, however you want.
it's tuition, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
How about we say tuition and fees
sure. That's why we have a lot of fees.
for said course? I believe that the provost wanted to weigh in on this.
Yes, thank you. So we have already done this for a number of courses, and we'll be happy to do it again. I am concerned about it being listed here as an authorizes. The Faculty Senate doesn't have purview over tuition and fees, the regents do. This would be appropriate with the other language in the resolution that's higher up that enjoins the administration to do various things, and I would welcome it. Because again, we're happy to do this. I don't think that the Faculty Senate can authorize it.
That's great. Wherever it needs to go, I would just like to not penalize our students.
That probably then needs to go into the opening paragraph as opposed to a commitment or an authorization.
Please enjoin me and scold me to do this.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. Yes, you're so anointed, sir.
Pamela, you have this as an insertion. Do you want to move this to a different place in the document?
Absolutely, as the provost suggests in the beginning.
All right. Is there any objection? No objection. So without objection, we will move that. Let's see. I think for example, comma, the I don't want to use the word encourage. Do you have language for me, Pamela?
For example, any incomplete that requires a student to enroll for a credit in the next semester. For example, any incomplete that requires a student to enroll. What do you not want to say, Finney?
I was going to put encourage.
Oh, I got to leave that a little to the president, provost. We encourage, I guess. We recommend. I like recommend. I mean, we're a body that's giving a recommendation in this case.
You could say strongly recommend. I mean,
yeah, sure.
Strong language is fine.
Sure, thank you. Strongly recommend is good.
Okay. Is there?
We should say sorry, Finney. Recommend that the university, and then no to. Get rid of to after university.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any objections to this change? I see Pamela Powell with her hand raised.
Oh, sorry, that was my old hand. I'll get rid of it. Sorry.
All right. Okay. Are there any further insertions? Nancy.
I alluded to this earlier when I talked about the unintended consequences in grading, and I understand the provost said that one of the problems with universal pass might be that degree requirements may not recognize it, but I wondered if you could pop in the potential language that we could adopt that would address that. I did email it to you earlier this morning, but also recently, just now, to you and Rick. I don't think I have the ability to cut and paste, but if you can put it in, otherwise I can read it.
This is language that you sent to me?
Yes, earlier today, probably around 12, but also just recently, maybe 5 minutes ago, to you
Is
and
that
Rick.
about the
An email.
universal?
Yeah, I can read it since not everyone will have access to the screen. And
I
it
think
would be an insertion.
I thought we discussed that, or so I think the idea is to keep this document as simple as possible. And I don't think the provost, and James, you can weigh in here. I don't think that we're looking to authorize another grade designation or create another grade designation of, what was it, UP or SU?
I don't think I had a chance to discuss it fully. And so that's why I'm proposing it doesn't have to be adopted.
Got it. What's your insertion?
My question is, are you able to just copy and paste so people could see it while I read it, or should I just go ahead and read it?
I will copy and paste it. Hold on. Let me see if I can.
And in the meantime, I'll read it, if that's okay.
Hold on. Just a second. Okay, do I have a second for this insertion?
I don't think everyone is able to see it. I may be wrong, so we may need to read it.
Can everyone, I mean,
Unless there's no one who can't read it.
at this point, I'd like to ask for a second. Is there a second to add this?
I'm not sure that we could ask for a second if people don't know what, unless we know that everyone's able to read it.
Nancy, Cheryl's saying that the print is too small for her to read. Maybe Finney, should she read it?
Can you read it out
Go
loud?
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, sure, I'll read it. I thought Finney was going to read it. Okay, so authorizes the UNM administration to consider the development of Universal Pass UP as a new grading option for spring 2020 or any semester that is impacted by a major crisis. Under a universal grading system, every student would complete their course requirements, including exams, submit papers, and complete all assignments and receive the same grade, a UP or Universal Pass. This grading system will create uniformity for all students regardless of their circumstances during this difficult time. Again, students receive a Universal Pass if they've demonstrated a good faith commitment to learning throughout the semester. This is a flexible standard. Given the particularity of our individual experiences at this time, the logistics would involve creation of a new grade UP. A note will be added to each student's transcript for the spring 2020 semester, explaining that universal grading was adopted after operations and student learning were significantly disrupted by the COVID-19 outbreak or any other major future crisis. We believe that UP is one way of addressing unintended consequences and inequities in grading that may result due to circumstances that are out of the control of students, particularly the most vulnerable. Note, the UNM Division of Equity and Inclusion is currently working on a comprehensive statement on equity and inclusion during this crisis that will be shared sometime this week. I'm not sure if VP Asata Soraya is on. She was on earlier, but she may have had to join another meeting, and she could even speak to this during the discussion later on. So it doesn't mean that we have to adopt it, but we authorize that they consider this. And the main concern that Provost Holloway brought up was that some degree programs will not accept even NR credit, or credit that is not a grade. But I think that if the transcript has explanation that this was simply adopted for this crisis, unprecedented, that hopefully they would contextualize that. But I understand the concern.
So do we have a second to insert this?
Second.
Okay.
Finney, I just wanted to say from that task force meeting, the registrar's office is wanting to put on the transcript record something saying CRNC, perhaps it's the same in this case, Nancy, is due to COVID-19. So that's in the registrar agreed to that the other day on our Skype meeting, whatever. If that helps Nancy in any way.
Denny, I have my hand up here. I think I need to, this gets pretty main campus undergrad focused. I don't think that faculty in the health sciences can agree to this. So if you could put an exception of something for the health sciences, I think that would be appreciated, because we run into accreditation problems, and like the College of Pharmacy did vote not to use a credit, no credit system during this time. And I think we're getting a little too, we might be treading into areas that folks aren't aware of running into accreditation problems.
It was discussed that the College of Nursing, they might have to do some carve outs for this, Brandy. So you're saying maybe let's put a caveat in here, something.
Yeah, excluding programs in the health sciences.
We're not there yet. We have to first vote to have this as, we have a second, but we haven't voted on this yet. So we need a majority vote to add this, and this is significant. Does someone else have it?
You've got a lot of hands up.
Yeah, I've lost my participant list. I'm sorry.
Okay, you have Randy just spoke.
Brandy,
Liz, and then Constantine and Victoria have their hand.
I see it now. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, in discussing the motion, I just wanted to understand if it's made in a spirit of something that we would encourage the administration to enact in the present crisis, or if it's something pointing forward to possible subsequent crises, because I'm not sure, having gone through all of the work that we just did in this meeting for the resolution, whether this is meant to kind of supplant the credit non-credit or be kind of a subsequent development. And in any case, I think it's written pretty long and has a number of probably unintended consequences that are going to require some more work. So that's my concern. But Nancy, maybe you could tell me whether the spirit of this is it could be enacted now, or it's meant for ongoing discussion and implementation.
There would be a lot of logistical concerns, including the one about accreditation, obviously. So it's just encouraging exploration. It may never get implemented, but the idea is that should there be another crisis, and again, I don't think that anything like this has happened in our lifetime, but if something like this happens again, that there's already a system in place and a new grading system. But the spirit of it is not that it would undermine what has already been voted on. It's just, is this a possibility, given that there are unintended consequences for having a system where some students will, and we can predict who those students are that are going to take credit, non-credit, and might be adversely impacted by that, versus those that will continue with the regular grading.
All right, so I hate to cut you off, Nancy, but where we are Parliament in terms of parliamentary procedure is at the vote. There'll be there's an opportunity for discussion after we actually vote whether or not we're going to do this. Otherwise, folk get, we wind up, trying to convince someone who may not otherwise want to vote for this to vote for it, or vice versa. So we have that discussion normally after. Am I right on that, Adam?
Actually, I am now confused. We usually discuss something before it's voted on. So if this amendment has been moved and seconded, you're in the discussion phase right now. So people should be convincing each other which way they would like to vote before the vote is taken.
All right. Is there any further discussion? I see Vi Sanchez.
Victoria, it's Victoria.
Victoria, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to weigh in that the College of Population Health has many undergraduates on main campus. So, well, the health sciences is very well represented in the clinical field. We also have population health scientists who will be have an impact from this kind of amendment. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, I see the provost hand, but before, I mean, so if we're discussing this, I don't think that I think it's a breach of protocol for me to weigh in with my own opinion on this.
Dennis has his hand up.
Yeah, Adam, do I get a voice? It's a strange question to ask. I'm facilitating the vote, but I have a comment.
So according to Robert's rules, the president should remain impartial during debate and voting.
That's what I thought. All right. Go ahead, Dennis.
It just seems to me that this could be much more simply and concisely stated without all of the details if we're just authorizing the administration to consider the development of this alternative grading option.
Okay. Provost Holloway. Provost, did you have your hand up?
I forgot to unmute. Thank you for the privilege to speak. I have no concerns with the notion of developing this for the long term. As we discussed earlier, the problem of communication with students right now is particularly acute. And for them to see both, there's a credit, no credit option, and the administration is maybe perhaps gonna, not sure, develop a universal pass option, I think would be significant confusion for our students.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote as to whether or not to include item insertion number 11. I'll move the question. Rick, call the roll. All those who are in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those who are not in favor signify by saying no.
Alan.
Aye.
Amy.
No.
Brandy.
No.
Caleb.
No.
Cash.
No.
Cassiano. Cheryl. Christopher Lyons. Constantine. Dennis.
No.
Elizabeth.
No.
Oops, I skipped one, sorry. Duncan. Okay. Ezra.
Aye.
Heather Canavan. Heather Jarrell. Ingrid.
No. Yes. 1 second.
Irene.
Yes.
Jacob.
No.
James.
No.
Jan.
No.
Jason.
No.
Jerome. John Matthews.
No.
John Russell. Kuhn. Lee Brown.
No. No.
Lindsay.
Aye.
Loretta.
No.
Marina.
No.
Mark.
Mark is a no.
Thank you. Martin. Matthew,
Oh.
Mohammed,
No.
Nancy,
Aye.
Osborne.
No.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Paul.
Rick, I have two more no's for you. Cheryl, Brian, and Christopher Johnston, both no.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Rebecca Blankley,
No.
Rick Arenas,
No.
Robert Valdez,
No.
Robert Tepper,
No.
Scott Anderson,
No.
Shirley Hying,
No.
Stephanie,
Abstain.
Stephen,
No.
Tracy,
No.
Anne, Victoria.
Aye.
Did I miss anyone? Did anyone not get called?
My computer crashed actually during this time and I moved to a different computer. So my
Okay.
vote would be no.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, Rick, it's Cassiano. I just missed it again. No.
Okay. No. All right, thank you.
Rick, this
Yes.
is Mary. Did you get Osborne's no?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I gave it to him.
Okay, Rick, can you tally the votes, please?
Um, 6 yes, 30 no, and 1 abstention.
Okay, so the noes have it.
Yes.
We'll remove
Correct.
insertion number 11. Are there any further insertions or commitments? Or, I'm sorry, authorizations or commitments?
Vinny,
Yes.
going back to that very first paragraph again,
Yes.
with that, let me get my note back out. In the line about halfway down, it says for discretionary academic scholarships managed by UNM, we encourage the university to use fall 2019 GPAs to determine scholarship eligibility for fall 2020. I'd like to know if we could change that to something to include spring 2020 language to the effect of to use either fall 2019 or spring 2020, whichever is greater. Because this kind of assumes that everybody's grades are going to drop, and they may not necessarily drop. They may have better grades in 2020.
Okay, those are great points. Do you have language for an amendment?
So for discretionary academic scholarships managed by UNM, we encourage the university to use insertion either fall 2019 insertion or spring 2020 GPAs, comma, whichever is greater, comma, and then the rest.
Gracious sakes, Lord. Let's see.
Take out the or after 2020.
Put a comma.
Yep, comma.
Let's see, but we encourage universities.
Capitalize spring.
I think we need to first move this either.
Yeah.
Comma here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And capitalize spring.
And capitalize spring. Are there any objections to those changes?
No.
Hearing no objections, we'll make those changes. All right. Well, we're at our moment of truth then. Are there any further insertions or amendments to our resolution? Go ahead, Dennis, please.
Vinny, I was just thinking that maybe a simpler way to say that last sentence in the first commitment.
Okay.
This would apply to all courses regardless of their format and regardless of what time during the semester they're offered.
So from here, you would simply, so you're offering you're offering an amendment to number 1?
Yes.
Okay, can you state it that way, please?
Sure. This would apply to all courses regardless of their format and period of time offered during the semester. I'm just afraid that, can I just say something real quick? I'm just afraid that saying including online is going to be confusing because everything's online now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Are there any objections to this change?
Could we add delivery format? And or time?
I think format implies delivery, but we can certainly add that if you'd like.
If it implies it, then that's fine.
Okay. Are there any other amendments to the first resolution?
Could it say and or period of time? Because it could be one or the other.
I think you just need or instead of the and. Are there any objections to that change? Okay. All right. Are there any further insertions or amendments to our resolution? Hearing none, we will have a roll call vote on whether or not we choose to forward or accept the UNM Faculty Senate Resolution COVID-19 Emergency Measures for Student Academic Success. I'll move that question. Rick, please call the roll. Again, if you favor this resolution, signify by aye. Please pay attention to your place in the alphabetical list. If you disagree, please signify by saying no. Rick, call the roll, please.
Alan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Brandy?
Aye.
Caleb?
Aye.
Cash?
Aye.
Cassiano?
He left.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl?
Aye.
Christopher Johnston?
Aye.
Christopher Lyons, Constantine,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Duncan, Elizabeth,
Aye.
Ezra,
Aye.
Heather Canavan, Heather Jarrell, Ingrid,
Aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Jacob,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Jan,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Jerome, John Matthews,
Aye.
John Russell,
Aye.
I'm out of here.
Kuhn, Lee,
Aye.
Lindsay, Loretta,
Aye.
Marina,
Aye.
Mark,
Mark is a yes.
thank you, Martin, Matthew,
Aye.
Mohammed, Nancy,
Aye.
Osborne,
Osborne's aye.
thank you, Paul, Rebecca, Rick, Robert Valdez,
Aye.
Robert Tepper,
Aye.
Scott Anderson,
Aye.
Shirley Haying,
Aye.
Stephanie,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Anne, and Victoria.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you for that, Rick.
You got it.
So on the resolution, one point that I wanted to make before the resolution passes, but I think that, and Nancy, and when we come to ops, the language that you had for number 11, if you will bring that to ops, what we'll do is have a look at that, and then maybe we send that on to the provost by way of a memorandum from operations committee. Are you okay with doing that?
Absolutely. In fact, I did send it to the provost and a number of leaders, including ops, before our meeting today, but it was not embedded in this resolution. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I want those kinds of things to come from our through our operations committee if we can do that. So we have our 10 points. The resolution passes. I will.
Benny?
Yes.
Benny, I'm sorry. This is Ann. I had to
Hi, Ann.
leave. I'm on in my car. The call dropped right as I was about to vote. I too am an aye, just for the sake of roll count.
Okay. Are there any other faculty senators who may not have had a chance to vote for whatever reason that want to weigh in? Okay, great. Will you amend the vote, Rick, to reflect
Yes.
Dr. Waldorf's aye?
Yes.
Okay. So the resolution passes. I will accept all changes, and then I will post this. I will actually email it to all of you as soon as I do that. And I also want to thank everyone for their work on this. Do we have any public comment at this point? If we have no, I thought I saw a hand. Provost Holloway.
Yeah, I would just like to thank the Faculty Senate. I know this was a difficult matter to debate, consider thoughtfully, and move so quickly. And so I'm really appreciative of all the work that you've done on this. Thank you. And Finney, send me a copy too.
Okay, I will. So colleagues, we have, I didn't want to mention this beforehand, but the Dean's Council unanimously approved this resolution, or the spirit of this resolution, based on what they saw on the Faculty Senate website. I know that the Provost and the President will also be endorsing this document, and the leadership from COG and from AF&T will also be endorsing it, if I'm not wholly mistaken. Again, thanks everyone for your time, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.